You're fine. Okay. And where did I just, where, here, uh, somehow I lost. sounds so good. Holy moly.
They're pretty
Wow.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good, man.
Where does that come from? I listen to their solos and just I don't know where that comes from.
Oh my gosh.
Marvelous to listen to. I'm so grateful.
Uh, Hi, Taylor. Yeah, my friend Taylor is here so far. That's just so friggin' good.
Thank you.
It strikes me that um oh, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I didn't really announce. This is Dave Slonaker, and we're really happy that he's giving us this time. He's a busy guy, and thanks for
Well, thank
doing
you.
that, Dave.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Sure. And just to show you how busy, look at his room.
Yeah, I don't clean it up anymore. It's impossible. I've got orchestra stuff, I've got big band stuff, and I've got brass material that I'm working on. So it's
I mean, yeah, got to work on it, and
I know where everything is, but it's the classic situation where nobody else would be able to find anything.
I've seen way worse, actually. There was a flute player in Ireland that we stayed with, and he knew where everything was because I would move something like to sit down, um, and he would know that I had moved it, and it was kind of unbelievable, because of how much stuff he had,
Yeah.
And Ted Green, did you ever know Ted Green?
No.
He was like a legendary guitarist here in LA, and he taught absolutely everybody, and he would charge like $20 for anybody and everybody.
Huh.
And he had a waiting list, and people
Uh-huh.
had to send subs if they
Really.
couldn't make the lesson.
Huh.
And anyway, he was a guy, he couldn't say white without saying black. So his apartment was like stacks of everything, kind of in an orderly way, but totally stacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he knew
Well,
he knew where everything was.
well, my problem is that I produce paper. And there's about 30 years of paper in this studio and upstairs in my other office. I am trying to weed it out, so that might be why it's a little
Oh, you're trying.
messy.
What are you trying to do? Like when you say weed it out, what are you trying to do?
Well, I'm trying to scan the stuff that were pre-digital and throw paper out if I can,
Yeah,
because my wife says that if I go, it's going into the hopper
yeah,
immediately. So
yeah.
I've got to catalog this stuff. And that actually was one of my pandemic projects. And I'm still working on it. It's going to take a while.
Dave, that sounds like a delegation project, to have somebody else do it.
Well, the problem is I know what's important and what I want to keep.
Yeah,
And when I thought about that, but this is not, these are my sketches and my
uh,
scores and that's a tough, I don't know what other composers do, but I've accumulated a lot of paper in my
yeah,
lifetime.
yeah.
Anyway,
I've been thinking a lot about delegation, so I'm just
well, I
I'm
think,
just saying.
no, no, I hear you. It's time is short at some point.
It is kind of short. Let's see. Taylor has a few questions, which I'm going to ask you as we go.
Okay.
Um, and maybe I'll start with one of his questions. Sorry about that, Joyce. She said that Facebook is not behaving for her. And Marty Malloy says hi from Seattle.
Oh, I think I recognize the name.
Yeah. And so Taylor, one of his questions is, um, how do you work on blend between the brass and woodwinds when you want a nice contrapuntal sound?
Uh, well, it's a good question. I think it just comes with experience of playing live and understanding what has worked. Of course, once you record it, you have a little bit of control with the fader, so you cheat a little bit. Try not to, but um, I think I don't know how to answer that other than to just do it, because it's like anything else in jazz, it's experience. You know, I was a trombone player, so I was sort of in the middle. I like to think of myself sort of in the middle of the orchestra or the middle of the jazz band,
Yeah.
and you just learn what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I have my favorite tricks, you know, but as everyone does, and some of them work, I guess, some don't. But the you know, I have just about every arranging book that you can possibly have. So, and they talk about mixtures and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think you just have to be out there doing it. Try to get as much live playing as possible.
And then I guess your taste just leads you after that.
Well, that too. I mean, we are who we are
Yeah.
based on our listening experience. I
Yeah.
mean, I try to be someone else sometimes, and I can't. So, you know, I have my gestures and my uh, voicings, and that's who I am.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Um, just along those lines, he admires your writing, but he
Okay.
said, "Is this the same kind of an answer? How would you say you've worked on applying drop voicings either in the bones or the saxes?"
Well, bones, I'm usually are close position voicings, so you can get the the dissonance if that's what you're aiming for, or you know, drop the bass trombone to the root or whatever the bass note is, so that's sort of three voicings in the right hand, three close precision voicings, and the bass trombone down on the root, or open fifth between the bass trombone and the third trombone, and do whatever you want with the other two bones. As far as saxophones are concerned, I do love drop two and four voicings. I think it's a neat sound. Of course, there's range issues too, so you have to be, if it's too low, that won't work. And
Yeah.
too high, then you have to cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
I sometimes I'm dropping the third voice.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Getting totally away
that's a
from.
little too, maybe that's a
Well,
little too over some people's heads, but
well, it doesn't matter because
yeah.
he is asking these questions. You know, he's
I like open voicings on the saxophones.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Igor Kogan says hello. Great to hear you
Hi, hi,
and
Igor.
hear your music. Your cousin is listening from France. Carol
Yeah,
Negiar.
yeah,
um,
sure.
Hi, Carol. So, I have kind of a funny question. I was watching the studio, which I've recorded in that studio actually. That's on Sunset or something. What is the
East West.
East West? It's a
Yeah.
very nice studio. I really like that studio. I used two different rooms, and um, so I think I knew 99% of the guys, you know,
Uh-huh.
and everybody's been around for so many years, and I'm sure playing with you for years and years. And as time goes on, does it? I was just curious because I'm sure you have played with these guys for literally maybe 40 years or something. And does it change? Does it? Do you feel like it changes as we approach kind of getting closer to?
Can I interject just a minute?
Sure.
Did you, we had a power outage out my way.
Just now?
Yes. Did you notice anything?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, can you start over again with what you were saying?
Sure, sure. I was just
You
saying,
froze for a minute.
yeah, I was just saying I knew about 99% of those guys in the
Yeah.
video. And I feel like you probably have played with those most of those guys for 40 years. And I was just curious, over time, especially as it gets closer to the present time, so you've been playing for 30, 35 years. do you find that it changes? Like in a small group, the more you play together, you all kind of go through changes together, and the music changes. It's probably more improvisatory
Yeah.
because there's a head, but then there's playing. So, but I'm just curious, in a big band and with your writing and your projects, do you feel like the music has changed because you have relationships with these guys over the years and everybody's growing?
Good question. Well, actually, the band has only been in existence since 2012.
Okay.
But I know I've worked with these gentlemen in the studio for,
Yeah.
as you said, 30, 40 years. So I know they're playing. Boy, when you listen to Bob Shepard, it's Bob Shepard, but he keeps pushing the envelope. Same thing with
Yeah.
Vaughn.
Yeah.
Clay did
Yeah.
some amazing things on the current CD. I think we're all growing, and I'm growing,
Yeah.
and um, so we are changing, but maybe other people that listen to it might be able to notice that more than I can. I mean, uh, I'm trying some things, and I'm working on some new charts, trying to keep pushing, and I think we'll just keep growing together.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of sounds like it's more about what you recognize the people for doing. Like Shep has a particular
Yeah,
um, thing that he does that he's great at, and so you think about Shep for that,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah. If I'm writing a chart, I'm usually thinking about who's going to play this chart,
Yeah, yeah,
and I try to keep this uh, personnel together. Although there have been many subs, and there's some fantastic players in LA. I wish I could play often enough to use them all, really, because someone comes in and does a different interpretation of a chart, and it's beautiful.
yeah,
So it's just a matter of uh, well, I'm a very loyal person. These gentlemen have been with me since the beginning, so I mean,
yeah,
I write for them.
yeah.
But
Well, you have a huge, um, well, let's say a deep resume. You've written for lots of film that we know, and you know, I mean, just even that alone is pretty huge. And when did that really start for you? Did it start right out of the ballpark? Like, did you go to college and then start writing for for films and stuff like that, or did it take a little while?
oh, it took a little while.
Yeah,
we all
yeah,
have
yeah,
we all have different paths, and
yeah.
this one started. I mean, I've been in LA since 1987,
Huh.
so that's when I really started to orchestrate. But grew up in Pittsburgh, lived in Philadelphia for a while, and then went to the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York. Went to Indiana University as well. That's where I met Peter Erskine.
Oh,
Goes way, so we all go way back, and these I think six other members of the band have Eastman connections, and I went to school with.
oh, wow.
So
Claim to play, right?
that's really why I called this current album Convergency. It's really a convergency of a lot of friends who meet, and we grow up together and go our separate ways, and then come together and make music together.
Yeah.
So, but the film aspect came in 1987 when I moved out here, and I knew some people, and you start doing freelance, and whether it be orchestrating or
Yeah.
ghostwriting,
Yeah.
or arranging, and then that leads to other contacts, and you just build your career gradually that way.
Yeah. I'm looking for something said you said Pittsburgh. I was looking for something that I can't find, but I actually, when I was 19, I think I sang in Pittsburgh in this. I just can't remember the name of the place. I bet you would remember. You would know it because it was on the river, and it was a showroom, and it had a motel attached with it. And like while I was there, Maynard Ferguson's band came and played there. But I was in a show group. I was in a. This was the first and only time I had a singing dancing act
Uh-huh.
with two other singers. And anyway, I was just I just was amused. I'll find it at some point and I'll ask you if you knew it, because yeah, when people from Pittsburgh usually know this place, it was, you know, it was like a location that people went to.
Well, there's a place called Station Square that had hotels and restaurants.
No, this was all by
Um,
itself. It
uh,
was across from the river, and I almost have it in my mind. But anyway, not that's not important. Um, yeah. So did you have a desire and a love for arranging, particularly when you were younger, or did were you were a trombone player, right? So
yeah.
and but you must have appreciated big bands growing up.
Oh, of course. Well, if you're a trombone player, you're going to be stuck in a big band at
Yeah.
some point. And I remember I think seventh grade, I started in the fourth grade like most people did back then.
Yeah.
There was music in elementary schools, and someone came around and said, "Here, take this trombone. You're going to be the trombone player."
Right.
Uh, but I remember in the seventh grade, the band director came up to me and said, "Do you want to be in a dance band?" That's what they called them back then.
Yeah.
And I don't particularly like to dance, but maybe I'll try it. And so I like that. But I've played in orchestras, school orchestras and wind ensembles. And so being a trombone player, you get, I think you're in a situation where you're in all these different kinds of ensembles. And I remember from being at an early age that I, I, I was always curious at how things worked. And I remember still vividly, I took trombone lessons on a Saturday, and I would drive down to Pittsburgh and study, take my trombone lesson, and then I'd go out to Oakland in Pittsburgh, where the Carnegie Library was, the main Carnegie Library, and I'd go up and look at music books and try to figure out how do you voice chords. And so I think it was just being curious at an early age and trying to figure out how this all works. And my father enjoyed big bands. He was actually, to go back to the trombone aspect, he was actually a trombone player too, but not
Oh, okay.
professionally. So he had a trombone in a closet and said, "I think you're going to be playing this." So it was only later that I started to take piano lessons as well. But
Uh,
uh, so the trombone, I think, so he had a lot of records that I listened to, and I think it's just, the how you grow up in that environment, I think is very influential in what comes after. And I just love music, and it wasn't always, there was some detours along the way, but uh, here I am. That's the story of our lives, right?
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah,
But I
I
think being curious, I think, is something that we have to be, I think,
yeah.
as musicians and artists.
Actually, I read one of the many books by my bed that I'm reading. Said that creativity is curiosity,
Huh,
which I thought, yeah, that's what
yeah,
it is. You know,
sure.
I love that. Yeah, being curious. And um, one has to allow time to let the curiosity have a little leadway, right?
Sure.
And then you get creative.
It's a long path, but I think that creativity is what also leads me to Hollywood and what I did as an orchestrator and arranger, which is your task by someone, a composer, to help him or her on a project, and in which you might have to. Uh, I've had situations where I had to sound like a Joseph Haydn. Let's do a Haydn symphony, or let's do a Mahler. We're going to do Mahler here, or Puccini. And so that curiosity in studying scores through the years, I think, really paid off, and I just find it exciting
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah. What are you working on right now?
Well, I'm working on some of my own music. I have talking about curiosity. I've developed an interest in British brass band
Oh,
music, and it's kind of a big deal for some people. It's particularly in the British Isles,
what?
and
I'm sorry. What is a big deal?
British brass band music. I mean,
Oh, I see.
it's a genre
Oh,
that is quite big, and it has cornets, it has
oh,
E flat horns, not the regular French horn, but E flat horns and trombones, and so I'm working on three pieces for in that regard. I have a connection with the brass band. And then I'm working on two big band charts. So essentially, I'm pretty much working on my own material right now,
yeah, yeah.
and trying to do that.
Okay, why is the word trying in there? I'm curious.
Trying. It's, well, isn't it a daily? We're trying to write the perfect chart
Oh,
every
okay.
time, aren't
Okay.
we? I mean, that's the way I look. I'm trying to do something. I don't. Every new piece is an adventure.
Yeah.
Can I do something that I didn't do last time?
Sure,
I
yeah.
don't want to repeat myself.
Right.
Can I make
Right.
this a compelling piece of music? So trying,
Yeah. Okay.
I guess
Yeah.
that's how I mean it.
Yeah, yeah.
I know how to do it,
Yeah, of course.
obviously, but
Yeah. Yeah.
there's we're always trying to do better, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious how you were using that word in that statement.
Oh,
Yeah, but you explained it. Thank you. Um, so, um, I mean, I kind of am already feeling like I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway because I think writing for a large ensemble is different than writing for a small ensemble or simply writing a song. Um, uh, but I just wonder, and I don't even know if there is a difference. Maybe there is no difference. But when you start a piece, um, do you, um, is there a process that you go through as far as not necessarily musical, but more of a perspective process? Like, um, for instance, when I'm singing, especially in the studio, I need to get my headspace right. I need to I need to be in the moment and be
uh-huh,
relating to the musicians and not really worrying about my vocals
uh-huh.
to get a really beautiful product, you know.
Yeah.
And so, is there that kind of a process for you at all? Is there a perspective that you kind of start with?
Well, I do a lot of listening beforehand.
Okay.
Um, I had the good fortune to orchestrate for Lawrence Rosenthal briefly in the early 90s. And, before a project, he would do some listening for about 2 weeks.
Oh,
He said that was part of his process. And he'd do some sketching of ideas. And so I think that you do have to get somehow your head into the piece you're working on, a
yeah,
specific piece.
yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, I do some listening, but pretty much I try to get right at it because I'm trying to just get stuff done at this
yeah,
point in my life.
yeah, yeah,
But I do think that there is, and I I'm a great art lover, and I read books about artists, and I think even artists will say that they will do some prepping and some sketching and before they start as they develop their final product.
yeah. It's
So
kind of
maybe
like,
we all have to do that.
yeah, it's kind of like opening the door
Yeah.
and seeing what's in the room, right?
Well, when I teach, I give the example of I have, and you've probably had many people come out to your house and work on it, but painters, when I first started a painter, I said, well, why can't you just start painting the house? Well, they take a day or two, they're prepping it, they're putting all their tools in the right place, they're putting plastic on stuff. It takes a day or two for them to prep.
Yeah,
And so I think it's the same thing when you're writing a piece. There's a certain prep uh, to develop some materials through listening or just writing out some ideas
yeah,
that you have to do.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll get into another Taylor question because he has a lot. He's at UNT, and so
Oh,
they're kind of obsessed with arranging and
yes.
um,
Oh, geez, that's a great school.
okay, so when it comes to orchestral writing, what advice would you give to have strings, woodwinds, and brass have harmonic clarity when you're trying to make a melody stand out? Do you base it all on dynamic contrast?
Oh, yikes. That's that's a tough question.
I know a lot of these questions are, student to teacher kind of
Yeah.
questions, but they're interesting. He's got great questions.
Well, well, first of all, if I had a student and we were going into strings, I'd have them look at the oh gosh, the Donald Sebeski book on
Uh-huh.
arranging, which
Yeah.
has a great section on string writing.
Uh-huh.
Then I'd probably suggest some scores that you really have to listen to, that you could start to, what I have in my mind at this point in my career is certain scores that I use as templates so that,
Uh,
someone could say to me, we're going to do something like we're going to do Puccini,
yes.
or we're going to do Copeland. That,
Yes.
that is a very vivid. I mean, I could hear that in my head, and I could go to certain scores, and I know how he's getting his sound. And so, what I would recommend is that you pick maybe 5 to 10 scores that you really like, and take them apart. Really, I like to do sketches of existing scores. I put them in anywhere between 6 lines to 8 lines, strings, brass, and really start to see how the sound is put together. Um, I don't think there's any kind of rule I could say about, where do you put the violins or this or
Yeah.
that, you know.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of self-study and experience that has to go to it. But, I could say to someone, well, write a big band chart and take it to the union and listen to it and learn
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's easier. That's harder to do with an orchestra,
Yeah.
because you got to get 65 people together. So
Yeah.
I was blessed to be able to be put in situations out here where I was working with orchestras almost from the beginning.
Yeah.
I could make my mistakes. So for a student, I would recommend you're going to have to buy some scores that really appeal to you and take them apart and
Mm.
understand how you how the composer is getting his sound.
Yeah.
because I don't know if there's any one rule
Yeah.
I could say.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, like you said before, I mean, to me, the message also is, what do I like? So you take them
Yeah,
apart, and I'm drawn to this,
yeah,
and so I'm going to use this material because that's what I'm drawn to.
yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. Do you, this may be a dumb question. Do you feel like Dave Slonaker has a particular sound that people in your area of business recognize and they say, "Yeah, I want Dave Slonaker's sound for this."
I don't know if if I've reached that point.
Yeah, yeah,
Only someone else could. If you're talking about orchestrating in film, then I
yeah,
think I'm hopefully more known as a craftsman, a dependable craftsman, because I don't know if there's a specific sound. It would depend upon the composer. You know,
yeah, yeah.
it's more part of being a good craftsman and getting the job done.
Right.
As far as the band is concerned, I'm sometimes very curious what people think, because you know there's certain things I do that I'll write a chart and say, oh, I did this before. It's the same thing. I don't know. I'm very critical of what I do, but I have tried to do some charts that maybe are not quite typical, atypical, particularly on this latest CD,
Yeah, which is called, what is the name of that?
Convergency.
Convergency.
There it
Okay.
is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't miss
There
that.
it is.
Okay. Cool.
Uh, so I don't know. Maybe someone can tell me.
Well,
Email me and tell me.
Igor says you have a sound.
Okay. Well,
And
thank you,
also,
Igor.
Igor has a question. He's going to be on here in a few weeks. Dave, having both classical and jazz experiences, do you find any similarities, techniques between classical orchestration and jazz big band arranging orchestrations, maybe general concepts or more specific techniques or doublings, counterpoint lines, etc.?
Oh gosh, that's a long. That's a couple of lessons, Igor. Well, yeah, it's very much related. Um, I mean, there is a way to voice an ensemble, no matter whether it's classical or a big band, that acoustically will work. Of course, there's many ways to do things. I mean, you may want something that's totally dissonant and in either one, and you might approach the orchestra a little bit different from how you would achieve it in the big band,
Uh-huh.
because you have some range issues. I mean, the range of the big band is not as much as with the orchestra.
Yeah.
Uh, I would always say that I don't have my notes in front of me, but Don Sebesky, um, let me see if I can remember, has 4 items that I think are the key to any kind of successful music arrangement or composition. And that is focus. The ear has to be, your mission is for you to, the listener to understand where the focus is, where the melody is,
Yes.
if that's what the focus is.
Yes.
Uh, it must have variety.
Uh-huh.
So variety, focus. I don't think I have my notes in front of me. Anyway, you'll have to take a lesson with me. But I would read Don Sebesky's book. That's, to me, there are many other great books that I could recommend, but um, uh, he's one of the greats.
Yeah.
But yes, I think there are common things between orchestral writing and big band writing that are very common. And as far as the value of studying classical music for a big band arranger. If I have a student, we'll spend one session studying Beethoven sonatas, piano sonatas, because I think that you have to have a sense of form. You have to develop your sense of form. And I think one way to do that is to study classical music,
Uh-huh.
classical music forms.
Yeah.
Um, Bartok is another favorite of mine too. Great, great for studying forms.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so oh, you're about 0.003 cents richer because Roland just bought Convergency from iTunes.
Oh, thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
Mark really likes it. Let's see. And Marty says your big band sound is hip in capital letters.
Oh, thank you.
Taylor also, I mean, he has other questions, but I'm going to ask this too. When you're arranging a piece for a vocalist, what are your thoughts on making your band blend in with harmonic simplicity to not overpower the song?
Well, I haven't done anything with a vocalist before.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
there you go.
Wow, in all those years.
Well, in the movies, I have done things, and I think it's just a matter of staying out of their range and
Yeah,
being very
yeah,
careful with, you don't want to fight them. You don't want to fight the lyrics.
yeah,
So I could say those general things, but as far as my sound specific with the band, um, I think it's no different from writing. When I write a big band chart and I'm featuring a
yeah,
saxophone
yeah.
soloist.
Right, right. I don't think so either.
And,
Because you want the melody to stand out and the
yeah.
quality of the tone. Yeah,
So you're thinking about registers, you're thinking about colors,
yeah,
and not being too active.
right.
One of the lessons I learned from one of my great teachers was that you don't want to be too active to detract from where the focus of the ear should be.
Yeah,
You have to learn how to tailor your chart so that the focus is on the melody.
yeah. I think this would be a good place to listen more.
Yeah,
So,
could we do
okay.
something? I'd like to go. Well, this is one of my old favorites. Could I do that from the first album? It's called Night Lights,
Sure. Is it a video or an audio?
the video.
Okay. And
And could I point out a couple things about it before we go? Before we
absolutely.
do it?
And it's on your regular page.
Yeah, it's right
Oh,
to the
right
right
here.
of Intrada. Yeah.
I got it. Okay, so
Okay.
go ahead and tell
So
me.
so one of the things that I really like to do is form, is play with form. So this was a piece where I had a 32 bar tune, but I also developed an intro, and then I developed a 16, I think it's a 16 bar, maybe it's a 32 bar
Oh,
transition. And actually, it all becomes part of the tune and part of what the soloist solos over.
oh,
So, in other words, I don't really like to just write a 32 bar tune and that's the chart. I
yeah,
like to play with form, and this turned out to be rather successful. And also at the very end, I actually did the shout chorus behind the soloist. I didn't have the final solo and then go into a shout chorus.
okay,
I was really trying to see if I could avoid the standard way of doing, this is the exposition, these are the solos, maybe something in between, and then a shout chorus.
yeah.
What if you start to mix these things up? Can you pull it off? So let's see if I did.
Let's see. Sounds interesting. Night lights. Here we
Yeah.
go.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead for some reason. I think this was down back here.
We all looked younger then. Jeez.
I noticed that. That was a few years back, though, right?
Yeah, that was 2012.
Oh, that was 2012, yeah.
So, I tried to play with the form a little bit on that, and it worked out. Plus, the soloing was incredible.
Yeah.
And
Ron Stout is your guy to solo a lot on trumpet?
well, here, Clay Jenkins, they have two different styles.
Totally.
And
Clay reaches into the I don't know what zone he reaches into.
yeah,
He's amazing. Yeah. Oh, so is Ron. I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah,
well,
they're very different.
in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really push the. Uh, I don't know where it comes from. I mean, they're all good. I mean, I can't. But yeah, we could play something that Clay plays on soon too.
Okay. All right, we'll do that. He's kind of yeah, he's amazing. And the sax player actually I didn't really know who that was. The soloist.
That's Brian Scanlon.
Oh, yeah, I don't know him that well. I've heard him. I heard him at vibratos in some large group that was great. But I haven't really, I don't know, bumped into him a lot or whatever.
Well, we went to school together at Eastman,
Uh,
so that's
yeah.
how I know him, and he's a marvelous player.
Yeah, he really is. Great sound.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, you have had you've had a Grammy nomination.
for the big band.
Yeah, which is nice. I mean,
Yeah,
what do you think about the Grammy nominations? I know one time I was trying to I was trying to reach out and Bobby Shue said to me something like, "Too bad you're going after that." He just thought, Kathy, that's just so not what it's about.
well, he's right, but and yet, well, this is where I could talk about it over a beer somewhere. But Bartok says music is not competition. It's
Right.
music. So I think this town does tend to emphasize the Grammy thing,
Yeah.
a bit too much. And having not been nominated for my last CD, I have some feelings about the subject, but there's a lot of product out there, and it just if it happens, that's great. Of course, it does pay to be John Williams or Wayne Shorter or the same people keep getting
Yeah.
nominated. So I'm not sure uh, a lot of listening goes into the evaluation at the end. And because
Yeah.
frankly, I vote and I can't listen to everything. And I
Sure.
try I try very hard in the categories that I can vote in. And usually the ones I vote for are not even selected. So that tells me something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
So
it's yeah.
it's sort of a crapshoot. But
Yeah.
I was very blessed to have this one in 2013, and so I'll take my blessing and
Yeah, it's
I'm
kind of
grateful for it.
it's an odd business. I mean, business that we're in. You do things you love to do. You do them as well as you can. That leads you on a road of recognition um, and getting hired or
Yeah,
working together with people. And that's really, I mean, that's where the real joy comes in,
sure,
right? And yeah, it's nice to be acknowledged, but it doesn't, you know, I mean, I guess you could die if you were acknowledged a lot, and you would die. You might die happy. I don't know, but
I
I
don't
think you'd
know.
die happier if you actually did stuff that you really enjoyed.
I think at the end of the day, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
I have on my I wasn't quite sure if we talk about this today, but I have on my Facebook page And this goes with the Grammy thing,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Uh, and article by Ted Goya. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Yeah.
He has a Substack newsletter, and this week he came out with uh, a post called "How many new songs are released each day?" I was curious about this because when I was promoting my convergency last summer,
Yeah.
I did the usual thing, trying to get a Grammy nomination as well. And I started to call radio, uh, people who play it on the radio. There's not many, but there is some jazz radio out there, right?
Yeah.
And you've probably done the same thing. And and so I talked to a few of them, and I got the sense one of them said, we this past year we got over between 100 and 200 CDs a month. It was impossible to listen to all of it,
Yeah.
to play all of it, and so that's what we're up against. Now, if you read the article, if you go to my Facebook page and read the
Okay.
article,
Yeah.
let's see, there are between, no, I didn't write this down, but there are between 5,000 to 10,000 jazz CDs that have been released each year recently.
Right.
So that means almost somewhere between 400 to 800 a month. There are 100,000 songs in the total recording universe. 100,000 songs are released each day. SoundCloud added 45 million tracks in a 12-month period last year. Now, I mean, the point of the article is, how do you get your music out there? How do you get noticed in that kind of environment, which we all face nowadays, trying to find an audience for our music?
Yeah.
Um, I don't have any great thoughts about it, other than the fact that's what we're up against. And
Yeah. It's it's strange. It's one of the strange things about this universe
yeah,
and this life. It really is. It's you really have to have, a perspective, why kind of what makes you happy and why you're doing it,
yeah,
because things like that are so bizarre.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
I know.
even I was just going to say, even I've been talking about this with people. So, Kulak's Woodshed. So,
Yeah,
Kulak's Woodshed has been around for 23 years. Mostly, it's been a support system for songwriters, singer songwriters, and acoustic rock. And a lot of people have come through, like famous people. The first bunch of years, he actually supported it totally himself because he had a straight job and he just financially supported the whole thing. Then he lost his, the straight job became gone. And then over the next years, it was hard to really fill the whole calendar. And then when the pandemic hit, it was really hard. And then his landlord died, and the family tripled the rent.
uh,
And then he was looking for people to help. So he found me, and I thought, when I take on something like that, I just feel it. It's like, does it feel clean? You know what I mean? Like clean vibes, and is it good for everybody? And do I feel any weirdness? Do I like the guy? And everything felt good. So I just jumped in, and I thought, this is cool. It's a win-win for everybody, right? For
yeah,
people who want to play, although it's not your typical club where you show up and it's like it's actually a recording studio for video.
uh,
But and then for audience, it's to me, it's a no-brainer. It's in a great location,
yeah,
easy to get to, North Hollywood. You pay 15 or 20 or $25. There's no there's no alcohol and food sold, so that's it. You don't have to worry about spending 40 or $60. Parking's okay. You're seeing the highest quality music, in my case, and what I'm creating, the highest quality jazz that you can see anywhere on the planet.
Yeah.
And um, so it's only been a few months, but to me, it's like the crowds are not responding enough. And
Oh,
I
really?
do a lot of PR. Yeah,
Oh,
and I just, it's like I almost want to take a like I want to send out a what is it called? Like a questionnaire. Like, how come you're not coming? And not to make people
uh-huh.
feel bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if it does, it does. But
Yeah.
but why aren't you coming? You know,
Yeah.
are you just have something else to do? You don't care. You don't want to spend the time or the money. You don't want to drive. It's not that important to you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same kind of thing. It's like live performances always, I always felt like it was partly the marketing, which okay, like there's an organization called Jazz is Dead here in LA.
Is there?
Yeah. And so these guys, there are a few younger guys, like in their 30s or 40s. They created this. It's kind of a strange. I won't go into the whole thing, but they created a record label that utilized older jazz musicians and younger musicians together,
Hmm.
and they started booking events out of town, in town, and and also like booking people like Milton Nascimento, coming in, right? But
Uh-huh.
the thing is, their events are packed with
Huh.
people, a lot of young people too. And
Uh-huh.
it just blows my mind. It's like it has to be marketing, It's like has to be they have a finger on Instagram or TikTok or
Huh.
it can't possibly be like you and I know a bunch of people. We may have, you know,
Yeah.
a email list of a few thousand people, but how many of those people are actually coming out, or buying our music or
Yeah.
whatever? It's not, there's something about that. I feel like it's a mystery that I need to solve
Yeah.
personally.
Well, I'm good. Jazz is Dead is the name of the outfit.
Jazz is dead.
Okay, I'm going to look into that. Well, I salute what you're doing, and I'm sorry I haven't been there yet, although I had planned to be there
You almost got there.
during that
Not your
rainstorm,
fault. Yeah.
and we'll get there. But so I hope you'll keep it up because I think that actually is the answer that Ted Goria comes up with at the end of the article,
Oh,
is that we are responsible to build an audience, and it's up to us to build this audience for live music. And we need people that that will provide the venue for that, and we just have to keep fighting, I guess. I will say that I think that the death of newspapers does not help.
yeah.
Advertising in newspapers.
Yeah.
I could always go to if you were visiting New York City, you would buy Village Vanguard and you see who was playing where. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Village, not
Yeah. Village
the
Vanguard.
no, not well, the club, but what was the newspaper?
Oh, the newspaper.
Uh,
I can't remember.
yeah, but and in the LA Times, there was, I think when I first came to town, you could go back and see who's playing in what clubs.
Yeah.
That
And then
era
there was
is,
the LA jazz scene, which was
yeah,
a really strong presence.
yeah,
Now it's online, but I don't know how many people actually go and look.
yeah. God bless Tom Meek for doing that. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
what you're talking about? But
Yes.
how many
Yes.
people know about that?
I know it's weird. And you know what else? I just played Palm Springs last week. The radio actually brought in people.
Huh.
Radio said who was playing at Jazzville, and
Hmm.
they played a little bit of me, and there were people in the audience because of that.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, like a real local station that is really
Yes.
partnering and promoting, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to go into what station we're talking about, but
Yeah.
yes, that's very disappointing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
because that we have to find a way to get younger people into this,
Yeah. Yeah.
into this music, and
Yeah.
coming out, and the value of live
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Um, Videos are nice, but I'd love to be in an audience, and be able to try some things on a regular basis.
Absolutely. There's nothing like like being in the audience. It's just yeah, it's a holy experience. It's so great.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience. Yeah. Well, thanks. You actually made me feel a little better about that.
Keep going.
Uh,
I think it's a great idea. I think I salute all the promotion you do. It's because I
thanks.
know how hard it is.
It is. I really should actually know this. It's funny how you focus on one thing, and then you don't. But okay, so during the pandemic, I wrote this little book. I mean,
Oh,
now it wasn't started during the pandemic. It was started like over 15 years. It was called The Act of Becoming, and just a tiny little book. But basically what it was my observations about how a lesson in life is the same lesson that can be applied in voice technique, that can be applied to singing jazz. It's literally the same lesson.
hmm.
And so that's just always fascinated me, when I'm teaching voice and I just see it. It's plain as day. Somebody's life perspective is is monitoring even their voice technique. It's really so
Uh-huh.
interesting to me. But anyway, what we're talking about, though, this kind of burning question that I have, I really should look elsewhere for the answer. Like, as far as what I was just saying, I should look at how I operate um, in just in life in general, and what perspective actually, and what action answers that kind of question, and then apply it to this, instead of kind of thinking it's singular, because I don't think it really is singular.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I'm going off into my Cathy Segal-Garcia head.
It's okay.
Now you know where I live. Oh, Village Voice. Thanks, Joyce.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. um, oh, there's another venue reopening now. Thanks, Toby, for saying that. Did you ever hear about the write-off room, or did you ever go?
Well, I was going to make an announcement. I'm playing there on May 15th.
Fantastic! Oh my God.
They are going to try to have
A big band night or
big band night on Monday nights. And
fantastic.
Bernie Dressel is playing, I believe, on May 1st.
Uh-huh.
I don't know who is on the second week, but we have the May 15th, the third week. And
That is
so
so cool.
this is something that I think the community hopefully will support, so we can, what I think we need is, what I think has been lacking is a place where we know that every a specific day, every
Yeah.
month, there's going to be a big band.
Yep.
And there are a lot of big bands in town, but trying to, you get a gig 3 months from now, and you're trying to build an audience, and there's no other big band dates around that in that specific club, and so it's the audience
It's
is kind
harder
of,
to do that. Yeah.
it's hard to target an audience, and I think it's hard on the audience to know,
Yeah.
where can we see a big band.
I agree with you. There's a new, I don't know what they call it, the Mint.
Yeah,
Um, they're having, and I don't know if it's a night a week, but like Lauren Baba, who's
yeah,
very outside orchestra,
yeah,
and I think she has a series going, and
yes.
it's kind of an outside thing. It's not like straight ahead. It's out. Also, I agree with you about the dates. I mean, that's what I was trying to do at Kulak's. I was saying, but it might just be too spread out. But the first Thursday's Brazilian, second Thursday's new music, and I've been having Vinny Golia
Hmm.
quintet, which is talk about being in the audience live. It's just absolutely great. Third, guitar night, which I thought was a no-brainer because guitar night ended and it had a crowd,
Yeah,
but it's been difficult to get people in. And great music. I'm a guitar fan, but I mean, it's
yeah.
been great. And then the fourth, I've been kind of trying to do the art of the duo with a seasoned singer and a seasoned pianist or guitarist, and which I think is a form that deserves more attention. I don't think in the old days we used to have a lot of that, a lot of these
Yeah,
beautiful, incredible duos happening with great singers and
sure.
players. So yeah, I've been trying to promote that, but I don't think it's like you say, people get it yet, or I don't know. It's there's just so much to
Well, keep doing it. Can you fit a big band in there?
yeah, well, it would be a tight squeeze. You could do it, but it's a
Well,
tight squeeze. But I have been getting some universities and high schools to play, which
uh-huh.
I think is fantastic. And
Yeah.
we also have a really great flutist named Ellen Burr, who is not only is she a great reader and everything, but she's also really adept at improvisation. And she's had a long history of being involved with improvisation. So we're actually creating a creative night, one or two a month,
Mhm.
where singers and instrumentalists, poets, dancers, actors come all together on that night and create in the moment.
Hmm.
And she's going to kind of lead it a little, so it's not totally spaghetti on the wall.
Uh-huh.
So, and that I'm excited about too, because I really believe improvisation is a great tool for people,
Yeah.
and they don't have to be a professional musician to do it or allow it to happen and to change their life.
It sounds, I mean, it all sounds good to me.
Yeah.
The question I have when we have these great ideas, how do we get and make people aware of them?
Yeah.
So I wish you
Hey,
luck, but
I also
I
have a question for you. I was curious, I thought of this a while back, but so first of all, do you still play trombone?
no,
Okay. So you probably, or I mean, not necessarily, but you probably do not create small groups, right?
no,
Yeah.
I don't have time. It's not that I wouldn't be interested, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have, I've reached that age where I know what I have to do. And I just want to focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Okay. Hey, let's listen to something else.
Well, we could, why don't we, well, I should be promoting the second album, but let's see. But they're long tunes. Let me think.
Oh, well,
Uh,
I mean, we
I
could,
want to get Clay in there.
yeah, yeah, let's get Clay.
Well, why don't we do A Curve in the Road, which is
Okay.
maybe on the second row there.
Yep, I got it. I got it.
This has just a great, Clay Jenkins is just going outside right from the get-go.
Okay. Great chart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some good solos, and Peter, that's unbelievable in that. Peter Erskine.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not bad. Really, really good. Yeah. Yeah, that was the lines were really stood out, the lines and the the writing of the horns playing the lines together. That was really
Thank you.
nice. Yeah. Um, uh, let's see. There's a few comments. Taylor is gone. He had to go to the lab band. So, yeah, let's see. Um, let's see. Marty says Wayne Bergeron is such a great leader and his playing style really suits your band. Everyone knows what they're going to get with Wayne. He creates a huge comfort zone for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, again, with each one of these musicians, it's just amazing. And I mean, I was a trombone player. It's not easy. I mean, I know that's why I'm not a trombone player anymore.
Do you find that New York and LA kind of have a different um, not different abilities, but different kind of qualities that where the musicians. I mean, I just had on Jared Schoenig, who's a drummer from big band drummer from New York area,
Uh,
and he's played with big bands forever. He's a very strong player, and he just recently made a record with five of his favorite arrangers, and wow, the writing and the playing was very, very strong and wonderful. I'm
yeah.
just curious, do you have any chance to actually compare or New York and LA musicians playing in this genre?
Well, I think they're all incredible. I mean, there's always been this thing in between the East Coast and the West Coast going
Yeah,
back,
yeah,
to the 40s and 50s. Uh, I grew up on the East Coast, so I like to think I bring an East Coast sensibility. I think there is a little bit of, but I'm not prepared to really characterize it here in public. But I like to think that there's an East Coast edge to my band.
yeah,
And many of these musicians grew up on the East Coast, but they play all over now. So I
yeah,
don't think, there are great musicians coming out of North Texas,
yeah,
Berkeley,
yeah,
Manhattan
yeah,
School of Music, Eastman School of Music, and USC.
yeah,
And they're all good, and they're all being taught by musicians teachers that have played on both coasts. So I don't know if there's that much of a difference.
yeah,
Sometimes I think out here, um, well, I shouldn't make this generality. I just think that sometimes the clubs would appreciate something a little bit more straight ahead out here
yeah,
that I find a little frustrating.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's all I'm going to say about it.
yeah,
I think New York is a little bit more progressive in that sense, but
yeah,
I can't really say that because people are going back and forth, and there are bands out here that are doing some incredible stuff. And
and it may be what we're speaking of before, like the venue where you can go hear it and listen, listen to all these different
yeah,
arrangers and players hasn't really been there.
yeah, I think
So
that's more the issue than the musicians,
yeah,
because the musicians are. I don't find a difference really.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
what I find is that in New York, you might have a chance to find a club where you can be a little bit more progressive.
yeah, yeah.
Certainly I've heard some stuff there that I wouldn't hear out here at a club.
Did you ever go to the Blue Whale?
Oh, that's my favorite club. We needed that.
Yeah, that was great. And that had big bands, not
Yes.
usually traditional style, but
No.
fantastic. I mean, like John Diversa, John
Yeah.
Beasley, that kind of stuff, Billy
Yeah.
Child. Yeah, it's
I
really
didn't quite make it in there, but yeah, that's what we needed, another club like that.
yeah, yeah. You know, the guy who started that was my student.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's Korean,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
he himself is a great singer actually, but he doesn't really push himself as a singer anymore. But he
Uh,
kind of modern, you know,
uh,
modern jazz,
I see.
and just really good taste and a really kind, generous person. You know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no, you can't give us any indication that it'll come back, will you? Can you?
Well, he's spoken about it
Uh,
recently, but I
well,
don't know. I don't
yeah,
know that that's going to happen. It would
it,
take a lot to do, you know.
it's hard,
Yeah.
and but the best clubs are by people who really love the music and are willing to endure the economic hassles,
Yeah.
But
That's why the write-off room is so incredible. Unbelievable, really. It's
yeah,
like they pay a
fingers
big band, right?
fingers crossed.
It's amazing. So I guess April 28th is the first one. That's what she said.
I
Um,
don't know, but
yeah, this woman, Toby Simmons, is kind of a bit of a promoter for
uh,
them. So she wrote down,
I
yeah,
see. They're
yeah,
going to have different kinds of music too, so
yeah,
which is there was a right. They were out in Woodland Hills for a
yeah,
bit, and
yep.
it's where I live, so I went in there a number of times. So it's a great variety, but we
Yeah,
need that.
that room was interesting. Actually, there used to be a restaurant literally to the left of it that I had my jam session at for a while. It was a
Oh,
great
really?
Italian restaurant, which actually moved more west on Ventura Boulevard. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really, really good Italian food.
Hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, that was an interesting room, really interesting, and it's just such a, I mean, talk about being cool for a club owner.
Yeah,
It's just like, what? It's amazing. It's a really amazing. I mean, that kind of thing happens once in a great blue moon.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I was gonna ask you a little bit. So, uh, yeah, you also had this. I found was pretty cool. This whole paragraph. I mean, we know you're famous. You're a famous film and TV orchestrator and arranger and composer, and you're famous, man. Um, Lots of famous films, animation, and then also your arrangements were performed by Clark Terry, the Woody Herman and Count Basie orchestras, and also you were a composer in residence at the Strasbourg Planetarium. So I mean, that's a really interesting
That
gig.
was a yeah, that was an odd gig, but um, well, that I was fresh out of the Eastman School of Music, and
Uh-huh.
there happened to be this was back in the 80s, 70s and 80s when electronic music first was sort of the new coming thing, and you had groups like what was it, Tamita, and what was the German group that had synthesizers, and then of course you had Vangelis doing the soundtrack to uh, the movie about the Olympics. So electronic music, I had taken a class. I tell students that you never know what's going to happen to you when you're preparing a career in music. I took a course in 1970 in Indiana University on the original Mini Moog, and it was an elective, and I didn't know anything about it except that it was starting. Wendy Carlos had just done was it Switched on Bach or something?
Uh-huh.
And I sensed that electronic music was going to be, this was something maybe I should explore.
Yeah.
And so a decade later, I got this job at a museum, and it was nothing but doing synthesized soundtracks to the light show. And it so happened that the Strassenberg Planetarium in Rochester, New York, marketed these shows around the world.
Oh.
Uh, they had two composers before me who were great electronic music composers, and I was looking for a job, and I got it. And I my family is from back east, and so I stayed there 7 years. Actually, I did
Oh,
over 30 soundtracks.
wow.
Um, and then I decided, well, I didn't like electronic music anymore. So you'd think I would have brought all my equipment out here, but I only had a bit. I did some stuff, but I never, obviously I missed the trend
Yeah, yeah,
when I came out here. I love live music. I love the orchestra,
yeah.
but it was a gig, and I was playing trombone at that time too, and doing
Oh,
casuals and stuff like that.
oh, yeah. Thank God we don't do that anymore. My God. Um, what was the funniest casual you ever did? Do you remember?
God, I think I don't remember that was such a long time ago. In
Uh,
Philadelphia, I was in a funk band,
oh, now that's cool.
and that was back in the horn era. And
Yeah,
I remember having my white satin suit, and we would play down at the shore,
yeah.
Jersey Shore, and Philadelphia area. And um, I suppose, I mean, I'm kind of a, well, anyway, those were interesting times.
Yeah, I remember, I think the funniest gig, maybe that I ever did, I was the token American singer in a Russian band.
Oh my,
And somehow this Russian band got a New Year's Eve gig for 500 Jewish Latinos.
wow.
And the only music that they had in common, the band and the audience, was Jewish music. It was certainly not Latin. And people kept coming up, like we would play what they what the band thought was a Latin song, and people would come up immediately after and say, "Can we hear a Latin song?" And I just wanted to be in bed so much. I was just so it was just a really maybe that was the funniest gig I ever did. I don't know.
There were so many gigs that we do in our youth that I'm glad I can't remember them.
By the way, your I guess it's your wife is Betsy.
No, no, no,
Oh,
that's my cousin.
oh, your cousin and my friend Dan, Chariots of Fire.
Chariots of Fire. That's right. Yeah.
And Dan is listing allmusic.com your 91 credits.
Oh, thank you.
Which is kind of actually fun to peruse a little because it's fun. It's people go, oh really? So starting from now going backwards, but sometimes they're not all original. Oh, you orchestrated Men in Black.
Yeah, those have been that was fun. I was able to be part of am part of Danny Elfman's group
Oh,
team,
that
and
must have
so
been
I've
great.
done a lot of a lot of those are his. Spider-Man was
Yeah.
very memorable.
Apparently he likes your work.
Well, knock on wood, yes. We go back 20 years
Oh, Alan
at least.
Silvestri.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And yeah, Clark Terry gets mentioned a few times. Joel McNeely, James Horner. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of, it's just kind of a quick, fun perusal of, some of the things that you've been acknowledged for.
Thanks. I've been lucky.
um, so the gig for the write off room, uh, are you going to basically play the music from the new release?
I play from both. Plus, I'm trying to get two new charts ready for it. So we're going to try to do real balance.
Is it a 2 hour gig or 3 hour gig?
I think it's 2 hours. I think they're planning 8 to 10.
Yeah. Do you know
So,
what the cover charge is?
well, my cover charge will be 35 for a table down front or 25 general admission.
Okay. So you can
I,
do whatever you want as the artist.
yes, you can.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think they're not going to serve food.
Okay.
It's a sit down, bar.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's cool. That sounds
It's on.
great.
Uh, I don't think there's official information out yet, but I will be posting it as soon as it's
Yeah,
available.
April. We're in beginning of April. Yeah, it should be
Yeah,
like another week or so. Probably they're gonna start pumping it out there a little bit. It's gonna be fun seeing
yeah.
seeing big bands in a new environment.
Well, I first, when I first moved here, we lived in Studio City, so I
Yeah.
passed. It's in the old oil can Harry's
Yeah.
place, and I would pass there all the time.
I'm sure they redid it so good.
I understand it's going to be very good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the parking will be taken care of, or, they'll have parking attendants, and then there's the car wash right next door where they'll park the cars.
Really,
So, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So that's good because the parking in that area, just for just regular people, is terrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so they got that together, which is
Oh, good.
great. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a great area for a club. So,
It is, and there's been
uh,
clubs on that in that area for so long that were so cool. I
uh,
don't know if you remember the Sound Room. Do you remember
no,
that place? Yeah, that was a really cool place. It's small, but really nice. Had a small stage, a bar, and the guy David Abari, that was his place, and he actually after that moved. He had another place, you know where um, where Michelli's is on the boulevard.
yep,
So like right across, not Ventura, but across that little street, there's like the diner place.
right.
And right next door, there was a door with stairs going up, and there was a club up there. Did you ever go up there?
No,
That was actually a kind of a cool room. It was
huh,
big. It was kind of the whole floor, and lots of different things were happening up there. So David actually ran that place for a while. It was like
huh.
it was under his name. But yeah, so there's been so many. Actually, Paul Krybick came up with a list of all the only Paul could do this. All the all the venues that have been in LA. It's pretty funny to look at and just, very amusing,
Uh-huh.
to see what you remember. And I was a waitress. When I first came here, I was a waitress at Dante's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was how I kind of got into the jazz community,
Huh.
and that was great. That was a great club.
It sounds like it, but by the time I was in Dante's when I visited in the early '80s, but
Yeah,
by the time I moved here, it was
yeah, they
closed.
were gone. Yeah, it was a cool club. I mean, it definitely had its problems,
Well,
you know. But I mean, it was a cool club, and the owner, even though he was I forget the term, when you're mentally like on and off again. Um, I forget
I
the
don't
name of
know.
it. Sorry, my brain is not working because I'm on and off again. He was actually Carrie Leverett. He was uh, a dancer and choreographer, and he was like he choreographed and danced in the movie. What was the one with Luck Be a Lady and about the gambler?
Right.
Yeah. So he was in that movie. You saw him dancing, and he
Huh,
choreographed for that movie. And he loved jazz, and he opened Dante's, with some friends first. Then the friends got out of the business, and he kept it. But it was by the time I was there, it was it was difficult. I mean, everybody was having a good time, but it was difficult because the money and
sure.
blah blah
Yeah.
blah. There's always something. Not ADD, not dementia. No, it's the one where sometimes you're really high and then sometimes you're really low, and you have to have drugs for that to keep you even.
Hmm.
Um, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one who doesn't know the name of
I
that.
don't know. Uh,
Yeah. Well, we're practically through the 2 hours. See,
yeah, it
just
went.
just in time. We're kind of
Very
running
nice.
out, right?
Yeah.
Um, so thanks again for spending 2 hours of your precious time. And I really appreciate it. And it's bipolar. Thank you. Yes, that was
Yeah.
it. And not you, Carrie.
No.
Yeah. um, so we know now May 15th at the Write Off Room in Los Angeles, in Studio City specifically, which is the Write Off Room is just opening again at the end of April. And it's a Monday night,
Yes.
and we can get to see the Dave Slonaker. Do you call it the big band?
Big band. Yeah.
Big band live and hear those great players blow our socks off, and it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I hope to see you out. I hope to see you at Kulak's, but I understand that you're super busy in April. But we're gonna
I'll
try
be
and
there.
keep
Hold on.
we're
I
gonna
want
try
to.
to keep going.
I want to support. We support you.
Thanks, man. um, just a quick note: the rest of the week will be archives. We'll have Tony Lindsay, who is a singer with Santana and Tower of Power. Quentin Denard, who is a drummer here, and he played with Motown for years. And I forget, I forget what song. It was one of your favorite Motown songs that you just always sung to. He was the drummer on it.
Wow.
So, and then great big band singer Nancy Osborne, and a flutist Nestor Torres. And then next week we'll have three live people Monday through Wednesday, and more archives. Uh, so you can always look at my website and find out who's coming. And appreciate everybody being here. And now I know we have some new Dave Slonaker fans too.
Well, thank you so much for asking me.
All right, Dave, you have a great day, and good luck with your writing. And yeah,
Thank you. Hope to see you.
okay, me too.